but I think like I'm so interested in I don't even know how to answer that. And I thought I wasn't having brain fog today, but I think I'm very interested in poetry that isn't asking people to conform to a certain literary culture. Maybe it's the most sophisticated way to say it where I sound smart. But yeah, so I just think we were all taught like that as young people, and we often expect poetry to be rhyming. And so even when I work with young people, I tell them like it does, you know what I mean? Like poetry could be anything you think it can be. And who defines poetry, and how do Black and brown people define poetry, and what does it mean for us? And that doesn't mean that we can't rhyme. So I'm not saying that by any means, but I just think it's like this conversation about, maybe for me, it's like, what do we accept and what do we teach that isn't already taught in schools, you know? Or like, and I guess people don't learn poetry unless you learn it in school, you know? And I think of like haiku. So I know it's not necessarily all, you know, Anglo-centered, but even then, I think a haiku is really difficult to write. I don't know if Karen feels differently about short form. So kind of that, those are my 2 cents, but I do appreciate reading poetry that's rhyming. Yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Well, actually with haiku, because we don't translate 17 syllables sounds from Japanese to American. So the rules on haiku have even relaxed. You don't have to have 575. You don't have to have 17 syllables anymore. Haiku is just a way of saying, I got a little 3-line poem here.
Love it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think it also pushes us, Lucia and Kira, everybody really here, Linda, Casey, it pushes us to, like, for example, I didn't know what a pantoum was that ends with like a P. And again, like it's, you know, in East Asian form, I think when I looked it up, or maybe it's South Asian, but that's super challenging. I don't even know how to explain it offhand, like where it's kind of like this collision type poem. That's not how I explained it all, but that's how I explain it. But even then, somebody's like, write a pantoum, and I'm like, what is that? But that's more about, I think, positioning than it is about syllables and such, you know. But I agree to Karen's point, like what is a modern haiku, and you know, but I do think it's challenging in a good way to push ourselves to be, I don't want to say restricted, but kind of in some kind of container to put, you know, challenge ourselves rather than do whatever you want with the page, however you want. So
the other thing is, it depends on the kind of poet you are, your process, because I consider myself a percolator poem. Basically, ideas swirl around up here until they're ready to be on the page. And if I try and force it, it doesn't come out the way I want it to be. So because I'm a percolator poet, I try very hard to get what I have up here on the paper, and it's tough to try and make it squeeze out and fit a form. So because I'm a storyteller, basically, I'm wanting to get my story out and told, and then I, you know, refine it, click it, cut things. But it would be tough to do that, to think of putting it in rhyme. I'm more interested in getting it on the paper, and then I'll play with it.
Yeah, I think I operate the same way as an adult, at least, where like I'd rather just, you know, I'm not as articulate as Karen. I don't use the word percolating, but just, you know, just paper dump it, or, you know, word dump, whatever you want to call it, on paper, and then see if I want to, you know, how I want to adjust it. But often my adjusting is like very basic, like, oh, this stands as 10 lines, the other one's like 8 lines, try and make them both 9 lines, you know. So it's super basic. It's not like I have not written a pantoum successfully, basically. And I don't even know if I would be challenging people to do it unless you're like, you have a lot of time, or like multiple, you know, like sit down sessions. But I don't even think that was your question, Lucia. Sorry, we like completely diverged onto.
Oh no, I get
a
lot out of that.
I'm like, wait, none of the haiku doesn't even have any rhyming, and neither does a pantoum, and not. I mean, it's not part of the intended structure. So
yeah, pantoum actually does have a rhyme scheme, because you have your pattern. It's like A B B A or whatever. So,
that's true. That's true. It's internal.
Yeah.
That is true. Do you have a favorite poet that you like, that you feel like meets your criteria for like appropriate rhyming, Lucia?
Well, as I said, I'm old enough that I was brought up on these 19th century people like Longfellow. I like T.S. Eliot. I love the what is it? The love song of J. Proof. Fruit Proc, is that as I always remember the line in the morning when I have coffee, measuring out your life in coffee spoons. I liked when as I got older and I saw there were all these poets out there who didn't rhyme. I liked E. Cummings and just the classics. I like Robert Frost. I liked all those people. And then my life got going and I started working and becoming this very dreary profession, economics, and all the sort of poetic stuff went out of my life. And that's one reason why now that I'm retired, it's really nice to come back and sort of catch up on where the world of poetry passed me by while I was out of it. But in school, we used to have to get up in the Friday morning and recite. I don't think they do that. They haven't done that in a long time.
What was it that you were reciting though? Was it poetry? Or was it just
everybody could pick a poem?
Oh, okay.
It had to be a poem. Oh. And everybody could pick one. And with the kids who are very competitive, they always tried to get the longest poem. Somebody would try to do the Song of Hiawatha, which would take 10 minutes. But that was something that was a part of school life that I'm sure is gone.
Not actually, because
really? Tell me.
What you're describing sounds like a miniature poetry out loud.
I was thinking the same thing.
Right.
Miniature what? Say it again.
Poetry out loud.
Poetry out loud.
There is a yearly competition, and it's at high school level, and you have kids who memorize and present, interpret their classic poems. And it's a yearly competition. I think it's already been done for this year, but you can try to catch 2023. Also, I think they're probably recorded, so go on YouTube and look up Poetry Out Loud.
All right, let me write that down. Poetry Out Loud. Okay.
Yeah, and they're the state winner this year was an Ohio poet, and he was really good. So I got to judge. Karen took me. Maybe I just met you, Karen. I don't know if you took me like before the pandemic to Poetry Out Loud when it was at King Arts Complex.
Yep.
And then last year I was asked to read some poetry, and I'm like, why did I should have picked something more uplifting, but I picked something super heavy as usual. It's my default. I can't write like light stuff, but that's my challenge. And then this year I got to judge, and the gentleman, I should say, the young man who went to state, and then I found out he won. But I think it's all about like, I should know very specifically because I judged, and Karen has known about this way longer than I have, being in Ohio for a long time. But I think it's very much about like how you present the poem, as much as it is about the content, because you can't judge somebody on content because it's not their own poetry.
Right.
And they have incorporated like modern, I don't like to use that word, but contemporary poets. So they have like, people that are still living, which I really like. So it's kind of expanded this idea of like the canon, that's my own interpretation. I don't know if Karen has something different, but I appreciate how it's like this very nice melting pot of options. It's almost too big of a melting pot, in my opinion. I would be overwhelmed if I was in high school.
Well, and sometimes it's really scary too, because as far as I'm even considering from a judge's point of view, and I won't judge, but but the kids will sometimes, you'll have some kids, you'll have duplicates of poems in the same competition. And then you have to figure out, you have to judge, well, who presented this poem better? Who got the meaning of it across to us better? Who was just reciting words and who was presenting a poem? So, and these kids are good. They're really good.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely something to check out in my recommendation. So
You know, one other thing I wanted to ask you, you poetry aficionados here, what about poetry in translation? Like we were talking about the haiku, you know, sometimes I read those things and, you know, they've been translated and sometimes a translator makes them rhyme, you know, they put in.
oh
rhyme.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, what is the profession's, you know, view of all of this translation issue and what people do? I mean, it seems to me it's doing some sort of violence to the original, but I can't judge it.
Translation is a gift. I mean, there are some very gifted translation poets here in Columbus, even.
Really?
Um,
Well, that's interesting.
oh gosh, his name is so long. But he's a professor. I'll look it up later. But Juan does, and he even published a small chapbook. Paula Lambert published it for him, a small chapbook where you have the original on one page and the
For what language?
on the other.
What language was
Spanish.
Spanish? Okay.
Yeah, he and his wife are translators. And I don't have a problem with it, and I don't think most of the poetry world does. I mean, you look at the beauty of the language in both languages, and that's another gift. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. What's the name of this professor, Karen?
I'll look it up for you in a few minutes.
Okay, yeah, because that's really
His first
cool.
name is Juan, but he's
Okay.
got like 4 names.
But I do agree that it is. I often like, just because I've studied foreign languages of like my own interest. I think when you translate, again, I don't have the poetic license to ever do that. Well, I shouldn't say ever, but in my current life to do that. But even understanding like fundamental colloquial language, I just think it's really hard to translate into English. You know, I think maybe the other way around is easier. But like, for example, there's like freedom poetry from like the, apartheid partition or whatever, when they kind of were splitting South Asia, post-colonialism, like according to faith. And so there's all these freedom poems, but like, I don't understand 99% of them, even though I speak my parents' tongue, because they're so complex. I don't even know how you could translate that in English successfully. So I definitely think it's a intense talent. And I think you do strip meaning, like how many words do we have for love in English? And how many do you have in like Hindi? I don't even speak Hindi, but it's like the dominant language or the national language in India, and they have like 9 different terms. It's like, so when you say love, it could be like sisterhood, spiritual love. It's just, I don't know, I just think it's, and I don't even know all those words, but I'm always fascinated. So I don't know how translation works, especially when I look at Rumi stuff, because it does rhyme in English, and we definitely know he didn't write in English, and I definitely think America is very interested in international and such. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Jeff
because,
Anderson.
Sorry, go on, Karen.
I say Jeff Anderson did a project a few years ago where he had people in groups, and it's called Broken Translation. And he had people to write in languages that they felt comfortable and then do the translation. And I took one of Kate Fox's poems and translated it into Gullah. So.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Gullah, like South Carolina Gullah language.
Yep.
Oh my!
Sat there with my dictionaries and like. Blah, blah, blah.
That's so cool.
And
That's
did my best, and I actually ran into Kate at one of the poetry at Perkins and gave her a copy, and she was like, "Oh, this is so nice."
That's really cool.
But now getting translations published is another whole thing.
Oh yeah, I bet that's hard.
Yeah. I also wonder, just think of like translations within English. I mean, I don't know if people do that, but just like, do people understand different dialects, and I don't necessarily know how I personally label Gullah or how it's labeled, right? But obviously the idea is.
It technically is a language and not a patois. So.
It's just, it's not a dialect, correct?
It's not pidgin English.
Yeah. So it's its own, yeah. And so I wonder about like dialects and sublanguage, you know, and
Mhm.
how people understand it. Because I've only really watched like one documentary about the Gullah people. So I don't, it's not like, you know, I have extensive experience, but that's super cool, Karen. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
And maybe Lucia, this is a good question to segue into. I'm just going to share my screen for like 10 seconds. I can find the right slide right now. Just to go over the breakdown for today. And I'm happy to finish when people need to finish. And I guess we're recording, but I know both of you were on here last time, and I definitely want to apologize. I like hit delete on my calendar for April 4th. And change the event, so it deleted everything. And so even on last Tuesday, the 12th, I even asked Linda, oh, can we do the 12th? Because it'll keep the perfect rhythm of every other week. And she's like, okay, I can make an accommodation for you. And then I didn't even show up. I felt so bad. So I apologize. And I hope you were having fun and interesting conversations, even though I'm sure you were waiting for me. So I just want to apologize because I know you all were expecting me. So thank you. Thank you for your patience and coming back. But I was like, how did I miss an entire thing that I'm supposed to like help lead? So I am, yeah. And Linda was really nice about it because I felt really bad. I called her like at 1 something, like, oh my God, I just saw your email. Yeah, because I got a call. Are you available at 1:30 for my social, or 12:30 for my social worker? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing absolutely nothing. So I could have easily been on here. So thank you for your patience. And either way, we will be having 2 more sessions. I know it was supposed to be like this perfect. I was trying to make it this nice little rhythm of every other week so people can, you know, at least it's easier for the both of you, but it's a little bit choppy now. I did want to ask about how we kind of wanted to end. And since we're recording this, I'll just project this really quick. Not that I think we have 100 different people watching this, but even if you all want to come back to it. So I just want to I just found my slides. I just want to discuss how we want to kind of finish the session, the series, maybe is the appropriate term, and then what we want to do in terms of a celebration or a closing. It can be all in one because this group is small. And I don't have as many creative ideas as I thought I would, but I think Linda probably has some up her sleeve, and you all definitely, your input is, extremely vital. I do think we'll be operating on Zoom. So can you all see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So any thoughts? That's kind of what I want to talk about instead of do a check-in question. I mean, like a check-in writing / question, if that's okay with you all, but this is kind of what I was thinking about for today. Just these, our normal reading, discussion, writing time, which might be a little bit shorter, but definitely what we wanted to do to conclude. So any thoughts from either of you, and Linda, of course, Casey as well. I'm very open, and I'll be writing stuff down according to what you all think.
I'm fine. I love the discussion probably more than I do the writing. Writing I can do anytime. A discussion, you have to have people.
Yeah, I get a lot out of the discussion too. I'm fine with that.
Okay, good, because I was feeling bad, like some people need a lot of writing time. But Karen invited me to a workshop last week, sometime in April. And the facilitator, who we both know well, was like, I'm going to give you a lot of writing time. And it was like in increments. So it was really interesting. I only do increments if it's the same pattern. So I also felt bad about having just like 20 minutes when we could have like 40 minutes, but I'm glad this discussion is fruitful because I'm all about going with the flow. But ideas that you have, even for a discussion topic, again, if you just want to go how we're going, that's fine. But the proposal, that's a strong word, the suggestion from when we did this preparation last fall was like, do a celebration of some sort. I think it's just challenging with COVID, but some people present their work, if they're doing visual art or dance, they do a production. I don't like to operate with an end goal in mind, because then it takes people away from being comfortable and not having anxiety. But at the same time, I'm happy if you all want to read work that you've written, bring other poets to the table as part of a closing session. We can also obviously have a discussion, but I just wanted to get ideas that you think would work. And let me stop this share because we can just look at each other's faces. So I don't know if any of you have ideas, what kind of discussion and what else besides the discussion? I'll just be taking notes.
I was gonna say, I trust you, just lead on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I do want it to be vibrant and a little bit different is my, goal. And I could even see if I can find something that we saw as a sample, but it was really intense because it was pre-COVID, not intense, like it was an entire audience production, and I don't know if we have the capacity to do that just with the culture that we're in.
Yeah.
And also, if you even feel comfortable sharing, there's no reason to have a production if we don't find ourselves in full comfort with sharing our own written work.
Sorry, I'm laughing at that because I've been doing so many readings on Zoom. I definitely am not leery of sharing.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if you, Lucia, want to share any poem that you love or even your own writing, because you wrote, you've been writing a few times with us.
well, I thought I'm going to have to go now, but let me just say, there's some poets that have stuck with me for years, some poems, and maybe I'll share things that I felt were influential in my life.
Okay,
That's great.
And bye. It's great to see all of you. Sorry, I have to take off.
all right, thanks, Lucia. I appreciate your time.
Take care.
Yeah.
Take care.
Okay.
And then Ms. Linda, did you have any special ideas even before we started the session? I don't know what they told you in your training or the onboarding that you did with the Arts Council, like in January, if they mentioned anything for celebration ideas or what they told you all.
Really not a lot. So, but I think this is me personal. I've enjoyed the discussions. A writer, I am not. So, I would struggle with that. But we did have a couple other people that was involved, Charlene and Marion, and maybe make sure that we invite them and see what they would like to do, discussion or share. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I guess I can even craft an email.
That'd be great.
And then we can just send it out. But I think if we send it out individually, Linda, like without CCing people, it might hit differently in their inbox, where you just send it to copy paste the same email. If you have the time to do that, it might take an extra 5 minutes or so. But I know we did have some people originally join, and then we can make like 3 bullets, talk about, things you like in poetry, a poem you really resonate with from, any kind of poet. It doesn't have to be dead or alive. And then the other option could be to read your own work that you've written in the last couple of months, whether here or anywhere else. So that's what I'm thinking out loud. Karen, Linda, I don't know if you have any feedback.
Sharon?
I'm honing in on that author's name. No, I'm fine with whatever we do. So.
Okay, I was hoping people would have stronger opinions, since I'm also really flexible. But Linda, does that sound good to you, that we just give them 3 options just to put out there? So if, like, for example, Karen's comfortable with whatever, and then Lucia mentioned she'll share things that she likes about poetry or a poem, whether it's a classic
And how
poem.
it influenced her life. I thought that was it. That would be interesting to me.
Okay, and then did you want to share something?
I'll try to come up with something.
Even it could be about anything
I want to
creative.
just share how great you've been and awesome and wonderful to work with, and hopefully we'll be able to do something in the fall that's, in person and more. I think COVID has just taken a toll on people and they're just exhausted from it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I know I was going to ask you and Karen I did already ask Karen, but how the numbers looked at your April 4th gathering, and if people were interested and excited, just to be in face-to-face time.
Very much so.
Yeah.
We had, I'd say approximately 90 people.
Oh, wow. And is
We-
that how many registered, or you had more registered than 90?
Oh, no, that was probably what we had. We were holding at 100.
Oh, wow.
Because the
Okay.
spacing. And we wanted to feel comfortable and we wanted them to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think it worked extremely well. It was interesting because we had kind of a crowd of maybe 60% new that hadn't been to
Oh.
Tuesday tea before, and 40% old. So we didn't quite have our groups back.
Mhm.
And it could be people are still not coming out. They're waiting to be sure. So we're only having one other in June, and then we will have none till next fall.
So
So
you guys
that'll
don't do
be-
it throughout the year?
No, in the summer because of our music concerts we do outside for 6 weeks.
Okay.
don't
Oh,
do-
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we don't do any First Tuesday tea program.
Are your concerts at May Moore, or are they within? Okay.
You know about them?
Yeah, because they've been going on for a minute, right? I
Oh,
think.
Quite a
about-
while.
About 20 some years or more.
Okay, yeah. So I heard about them when I was working right across the street.
At the Urban League?
Yeah, because I was there under a grant
Yeah.
for like 6 months in a youth program, so it extended into the fall. So that's how I heard it. I think I literally like walked into it. It was
Oh.
so I was like, oh look, there's this entire celebration right across the street. So that's I think a couple of us just like walked right into it.
Well, I
But it
hope
was
you
it's
come.
very festive.
I hope you come. It's on Thursdays, and we're excited to be able to do it again. There's 6 free programs.
Nice. Yeah, and then you guys also had some folks singing at the April 4th session, right? Correct?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
we
yes.
had the
Yeah.
trio and Phyllis Woodson.
Was the trio like, was it more like spiritual or not necessarily?
No, it wasn't spiritual. It was more maybe
Yes.
back in the day. It was Priscilla Woodson, and it was Otis Davenport, Mel Stewart, and I forget the drummer's name, but they play for a lot of our things here.
Okay, yeah, because there's like International Women's Day in 2020. Priscilla Woodson was on this lineup. I obviously don't sing because everybody would leave, but I obviously do poetry. So she's saying it had a very gospel feel to it. So I just didn't know. That also could be what she does on the if it's the same Priscilla Woodson.
Yeah, she's multi-talented, but I
Yeah.
think she may
I've
have
seen her
she may
do
have
the
a gospel. She may have a gospel
vibe.
background, but
It wasn't
did-
gospel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it was just her tune or something about it, or maybe the other ladies that she was with. Again, it wasn't. I don't know if she exclusively sang something that was. Maybe it was. I don't remember.
This
I
was
could probably access it.
basically 70s, 80s, 90s cover rhythm and blues,
Popish.
popular
Yeah.
hits, Last
Yeah.
Night in the Pips, and all of those.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And then
yeah.
I didn't know you all had music and stuff, but that makes sense. It's more than just discussion and
Oh,
hanging
there
out.
was dancing too, because the ladies, some of the ladies,
No.
not me, but some of the ladies got up and made a Soul Train line, and there was lots of dancing.
That's very
It
exciting.
was kind of a festive, like celebrating 35 years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Our birthday, and celebrating the renovations of the building, and celebrating being able to be back together. So it was more like a celebration.
Yeah. Did you have a whole presentation on the 35 years? That was just the theme.
We had a wonderful one. I think I'll let you
Yeah.
share.
That was a really wonderful, almost like a documentary. Trip Fontaine, you know him, Fariha?
Yeah.
Trip did a poem. They just it was a great film strip. I loved it. So
Nice. And it was just about the history of King Arts. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'd love to, if you have it available for public, I'd love to see it. Because I thought, because I don't remember you mentioned the whole theme was 35 years and the renovations. And I haven't seen the renovations. So that'll be very interesting to check out. And I also
they
didn't.
had drone shots
Yeah.
of the grounds. And I'm like, wow, never seen it from that angle.
It's dramatic, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. That is, did you guys have exterior or just interior renovations?
They were interior, and we have murals on the outside of our back wall, which was part
Oh,
of
that is very cool.
of the
I
renovation.
didn't look at the patio, Linda. That's an outside
Mhm.
readjustment.
Right, we had a small patio that was expanded and mostly for rentals or for the music festival. People like to come up on the patio and sit.
Hmm.
So we expanded the space, I'd say 2 or 3 times what it was.
Where is the patio? In the back?
By the park, by Mamie Moore Park.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can actually sit on the patio and look into the park now.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we want to do more, but it was a huge start.
Mhm.
Yeah, makes sense. That's very cool. I'm glad it went well, because I know I'm trying to limit stuff. I still feel overwhelmed though, but yeah.
How's your headache today? You still have it?
No, because like I was debating if I should fast today or not, because it's Ramadan, and ironically it overlaps with Easter, which is really nice. It's a whole bunch of Abrahamic commemoration, I guess, going on. So I was debating if I should fast. I didn't want it to backfire, even though, if it did, I could just have broken my fast and then take some migraine medication. But yeah, I didn't even eat last night or this morning, so I thought I could, successfully drain out and fall asleep, but no, I've been ripping and running intellectually at least since like 5 a.m. So
Oh,
I'm glad I look camera semi-healthy.
You do. You look well.
I'm glad.
You look well and beautiful.
It was interesting that you mentioned the synchronicity, I guess, of all the events.
Yeah.
Evidently it's been 30 years since Passover, Easter, and Ramadan,
Overlapped.
and the full moon
Yeah.
were all in the same time slot.
Yeah, that's wild. When I was younger, because it goes by the lunar calendar, so it's constantly shifts. But we had Hanukkah, Christmas, or I don't know if I guess it would have, because it would have moved around 10 days, but it was all the holidays like the last week. So it worked out really well. And people were like, this is perfect for taking off, or you know what I mean, already being off from school and stuff. So yeah, I thought it was super cool. So I hope you all had a good Easter, for those of you who have observed and got some, intimate connection time.
It was a nice Holy Week. Our church did a Monday, Thursday service. Then I went to Upper Arlington Lutheran for a Tenebrae on Good Friday. I love the Tenebrae service. It's
What is it called?
Tenebrae. It's basically the readings of from the upper room through the arrest and conviction and crucifixion. And as each selection is read, lights are dimmed, and it ends with absolute darkness in the sanctuary. And then you leave in silence.
Oh, that's so interesting. I've never heard of that.
Tenebrae services are just amazing, and my church did it once.
Yeah. Is it mostly for
Pastor
adults?
Emeritus. And then I think they started thinking about the liabilities if anybody were to fall or something.
Yeah.
I mean, basically you turn on a couple of lights to get people out of the sanctuary, but that moment of absolute darkness is very reflective and contemplative. So
Yeah, I'm glad you taught me something. Is it read from, where are the readings from?
out of the
Testament?
Gospel of Mark, maybe?
Okay, so is it like one chapter?
It's the crucifixion story. I'll look for it.
Okay, very cool. And is this practiced like across mainstream Christianity, or just you think it's more associated with certain kind of?
I don't know. I have to even look up the history of Tenebrae services.
Yeah.
But It was really nice. And then of course, Easter service was good, so.
Yeah, how was your holiday, Miss Linda?
It was interesting. I had my great grandson and my grandson and my daughter. So it was good. Just a lot of cooking.
Yeah. Did you have to do a lot of that?
I did it all. Not a lot. Oh,
That's your responsibility as the grandma.
that's my responsibility.
That's true. I also do anticipate my grandmother's cooking, so I understand.
They just expect it, right?
Yeah. It's like if she doesn't cook, it's like a solemn moment. So I get it. And my grandmother lives super far away. I don't think she cooks anymore, but she makes sure her recipes are appropriately implemented by her daughters and sons. And so yeah, very nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Is it okay, both of you, if we do transition to a couple of poems or one poem?
Let's do.
Okay, so I was debating because I keep one poem that we didn't touch before, but that one, there was two that we didn't touch, or actually three in the last 3 weeks, but one of them was like a little bit too much. And so I did find this other poem that I don't really know how, it's not necessarily super optimistic issue, but it's just this idea of reimagining. I think it can be read on multiple levels, but it's a Joy Harjo poem.
Oh,
And
nice.
she's coming this upcoming week to Northern Kentucky University. Did you hear about that? With Crystal Wilkerson, who won the NAACP Image Awards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I actually got her book, Perfectly Black. Now, it's all clean and stuff because I haven't broken in the spine, so I haven't gotten too deep into it. But it does have artwork and such in it. So I was in Cincinnati or Kentucky, I guess they're really close. And then I was like, oh my God, it's her book. And then I found out the cashier told me she was coming to town or whatever. So I was like, it might be something I embark in if I'm able to tolerate driving without getting sleepy. So I did not pick a Crystal Wilkerson poem, but it's something we can explore. So if you're comfortable, we can do this Joy Harjo poem that I had. And then I still have the other one, but that one's kind of again, it's explicitly heavier, I should say. So we'll do this if you don't mind, even though I'd like to have conversations in all different directions with anybody, and definitely you all. I want to make sure that while we're recording, this is more than just the tea and crumpets.
I think it's been more.
And that's not even it's not even.
Yeah, we talked poetry process before Lucia had to leave.
That's true. And I actually thought about this. It mentions language. It's not about language, but it's just idea of like culture and all of that. And I should have mentioned Joy. I don't think Joy Harjo rhymes according to what I know, but
No.
there's another poet who has, what's her name? Lady Long Soldier. Have you read her Whereas poem? It's like the whole book.
I haven't.
Yeah, check that out. It's definitely impressive is like not the right term. It's an understatement, but yeah, every line starts with whereas, and I think it's the whole book, honestly. So it's very impressive. I think I've read like 9 pages of it or something, but it's to do that again is very much craft form, right? Repetition oriented. So it does not rhyming, but it kind of goes into this idea that you mentioned about fitting your stuff into some kind of form. All right, so I have this poem. I think we'll read this. There is a couple of poems on here, but I think we'll kind of do this one. So it's called A Map to the Next World. It's not like futuristic, I guess it could be futuristic, but it's not, that doesn't have that same vibe. But recently I was reading an article that we can connect Amina Robinson's work to this idea of futurism because she reimagines looking at ancestral cultural frameworks and like applying it to what could be. So I'm like, that's a really interesting perspective. So here, let's open this one up. I think I already have it open actually. And then I'll drop it in the chat. And then Karen, if you have something else you want to share, and then we can just do a little bit of writing just because I do want time for that. And Karen, even if you want to pick something you want to read, as and edit it.
Yeah.
instead of write something fresh. I know you do have a lot of prompts from the Meta Factory and such. I didn't even know that was still running. Wild.
She has done that every Saturday since pandemic. So she's got quite a library of them on the Meta Factory Facebook page.
Yeah, and I didn't even know she posted her stuff up. I've heard of Meta just from
Yeah.
the Wednesday series at Kerouac. So it's, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so this one, I hope you like it. And then I did drop it in the chat, and we can just, I'll just pause the screen here. Or not pause, scroll down slowly. But maybe Linda, you can read if you're comfortable. You can click on the one if the scrolling is annoying or nauseating, you can just click on the one in the chat, whatever works for you to share out loud.
In the last days of the fourth world, I wish to make a map for those who will climb through the hole in the sky. My only tools were the desires of humans as they emerge from the killing fields, from the bedrooms and the kitchens. For the soul is a wonder with many hands and feet. The map must be of sand and can't be read by ordinary light. It must carry far to the next tribal town for renewal of spirit. In the legend are instructions on the language of the land, how it was we forgot to acknowledge the gift, as if we were not in it or of it. Take the note of how operation of supermarkets and malls, the altars of money, the best describe the detour from grace. Keep track of the errors of our forgetfulness. The fog steals our children while we sleep. Flowers of rage spring up in the depression. Monsters are born there of nuclear anger. Trees of ashes wave goodbye to goodbye, and the map appears to disappear. We no longer know the names of the birds here, how to speak to them by their personal names. Once we knew everything in this lush promise. What I'm telling you is real and is printed in a warning on the map. Our forgetfulness stalks us, walks the earth behind us, leaving a trail of paper diapers, needles, and wasted blood. An imperfect map will have to do, little one. The place of the entry is the sea of your mother's blood, your father's small death, as he longs to know himself in the night. There is no exit. The map can be interpreted through the wall of the intestine, a spiral on the road of knowledge. You will travel through the membrane of death, smell cooking from the encampment where our relatives made a feast of fresh deer meat and corn soup in the Milky Way. They have never left us. We abandoned them for science. And when you take your next breath as we enter the fifth world, there will be no X, no guidebook with words you can carry. You have to navigate by your mother's voice, renew the song she is singing. Fresh courage glimmers from planets and lights the maps printed with the blood of history, a map you will have to know by your intention, by the language of suns. When you emerge, note the tracks of the monster slayers where they entered the cities of artificial light and killed what was killing us. You will see red cliffs. They are the heart, contain the ladder. A white deer will greet you when the last human climbs from the destruction. Remember the hole of shame marking the act of abandoning our tribal gods. We were never perfect. Yes, the journey we make together is perfect on this earth, who was once a star and made the same mistakes as humans. We might make them again, she said. Crucial to finding the way is this. There is no beginning or end. You must make your own map. Ooh, that's heavy.
That is nice.
Yeah, it's very loaded. It seems like 5 poems that we could uncover. So
Right.
we can take a minute if you want to read it again silently, or we can hop into initial feelings and thoughts.
Well, seems like there's all different parts. It's like bursts and leaving the earth and making maps, and I guess that's your destiny or your I don't know.
Yeah, she's an Indigenous poet. So I think that's where, you know, like the Dear Me and those references come. I mean, other indirect references too, but yeah, it seems like it's going both backwards and forwards, right? Like, which makes sense with sand if you like shuffle the sand. And you know, sand is like an encapsulation of time. If you look at like objects of decoration or like combining sand on a wedding or, you know, whatever, I guess other things are the concept of time.
Well, also, some of the tribes have sand painters, and they'll paint the medicine wheel and basically maps for life. And the whole thing is, this is about life journeys. And yeah, the past comes in there because the Indigenous people have had their culture stripped or have forgotten, and that's been the big thing of AIM, you know, that they should never forget the old ways. You gotta keep those alive, as well as moving into this new world, the world of the off reservation or outside of our culture, of the cultural realm. So, I mean, she hit so many things in this
Yes,
poem,
yes.
but it's basically, you know, you make your own, everybody has their own path, and you have to do your best at following it.
Yeah, because she talks about like some concrete things like supermarket, science. Yeah. And again, you know, first I thought like, oh, it's a map journey, but again, it's, you know, the map is just a way deeper extended metaphor than what I once assumed it was. You can, like, I can read this 9 times. I've already read it a few, but even reading it again now. Yeah. And, you know, I wonder if.
She even mentions the downfall, the harm caused by commercialism and materialism. So yeah.
Yeah, and it says, you know, warning on the map, and the map can, you know, I think you can only see the map if you look at it through a different lens, you know. But I do think it doesn't, as you said, like ask for a return, but like a look forward, you know. It's, in that sense, I felt like it was a little bit, had this level of like hope. I won't say optimism, but I don't know if you all interpreted it the same way.
Yeah.
You know, at the end, there's not even at the end, embedded through it, there's this idea. But then, you know, when she said the wall of the intestine, I was like, this is way too visceral, and it threw me off. Even though you know, it makes sense, it's small but big, you know. I mean, it's smallly contained in your body, but can be stretched out. And you can't, you know, really find your way through it because it's never ending type thing.
I interpreted that as gut more than the anatomical structure. So like gut feelings and
instinct.
the heart and seat of emotions and yeah, intuition. So I interpret it as gut instead of just, you know, truly intestines.
Yeah, and maybe I just looked at it like, oh, she said curly or something, winding or, you know, something like that. But I think it was super concrete, so I was like, whoa, you know, and it resonates different. But I'm glad you read it differently, because I did think it was yeah, I guess it did make me pause for a minute, because I wasn't expecting it. So other thoughts on this, even in terms of her technique, it's so tangibly heavy, right? There's so many things thrown. Some of them are, I shouldn't say so many things, right? Some of them are tangible, like supermarkets, and then some are just like, and then there's deer meat, and maybe those things resonate with me more. But she also has other pieces, right? Like that are tangible but not tangible. Science, for example. It's not a specific scientific memory, but you know, we all know what she's talking about. And then here it says like, remember the hole of shame marking the act of abandoning our tribal grounds. And I wonder if it's like shame, like contemporary shame for holding on to something, right? Like this idea of assimilation. Like if you don't assimilate, it's shameful, or you're backwards, or lack progression or whatever, even though it's probably the opposite, because people assimilate now to ethnic cultures for a reason, because they resonate with them. So
Actually, if you look at it, our indigenous population here in the States and Canada have probably been the least assimilationist. They still holding on to old traditions is a desired way. Also, among the younger indigenous people, there is a pride. There's like, we are here, we are we are who we are, and we are not going to change. We're not going to assimilate. That I was amazed. I think I found out earlier last year that there's like an up and coming group of like Native American rappers. I didn't even know that rap was in the Native population. But there are artists.
Yeah, but I mean, I think like there's literal assimilation, right? Like geographical, and then there's like forced assimilation, like the boarding schools and such, right? Which has been a big topic of, I don't want to say controversy, because I don't think it's controversial. What happened was definitely controversial, but asking for acknowledgement, right? I don't know why we can't do that in this country, but other countries have seemed to reconcile with that. But like this forced assimilation, then just like assimilation into mainstream society. But I do agree. I think when you were talking, Karen, I thought of the word that came to mind was resistance. Yep. I have this idea of like resisting this forced assimilation, and then this like subversive like flow of science is dominant, and what I mean, like not listening to the earth, and what I mean, or just the eradication of it, and being in society in a way that doesn't honor like it should your traditions, right? But I do think there's like this reclamation. Again, it's not like I've studied and I have no place to talk in that sense, but in a very general sense, speaking very broadly from an outsider perspective, of course. So yeah. And I wonder if this is also, she's also here asking for a continuation or acknowledgement of the resistance in some way. It's just me like thinking out loud randomly. And I'm looking at the last part too. And I'm curious to get you all's thoughts, because she talks about the earth like as its own creature, it doesn't say creature, but it just says like the earth basically made the same mistakes as humans. And so it's like this, I don't want to say back and forth, but almost like a switch off. I don't know if you all interpret it like that, but I really like the ending. I mean, it's more explicit, but I did like it. And I don't know if it changed the way you're reading the poem. Like, we were never perfect, yet the journey we make is perfect on this earth, who was once a star and made the same mistakes as humans. And so I wonder if it's like a fall from, what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get, again, I guess it goes into Abrahamic interpretations of like this fall, think of the sky as like a superior spiritual entity in itself. And then like, I wonder if that's how it was supposed to be read. Like a star is in the sky, detached, and now it's like fallen. And I don't think that's what she was saying, but.
No, because I think a part of it is a lot of the indigenous creation myths and are very similar even to the Greek and Roman pantheon of gods. Basically a lot of interaction between heaven and earth, and earth itself has its own personification. In Greek and Roman, it's Gaia, but earth is also recognized in the indigenous population as its own person. And it's, I enjoyed the way that she put that even Earth has made mistakes. Some of it might be not having gotten rid of us.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, and you're right, because it is, I think it's the idea is right, this idea of balance, right? So it wouldn't be a fall from grace because it's not that in the earthly realm we're inferior. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because it's all like the harmony is what I think of, and it isn't coming down or descending isn't necessarily I guess, I look at some of them, but those are very explicit when like people were shunned from the, heavens in Roman mythology, but I think here it's not the same way. And then she ends off with, you must make your own map. I didn't expect it to end like that.
Yeah.
Because the whole time it's prescriptive, but again, it's not prescriptive enough where you could, like, it's not like, I guess it's the entire time is the metaphor, right? About like it's sand and you have to see it through a different light and not everybody can see it. And you have to enter from this way and there's no beginning or end. I wonder if the whole time she's saying you have to create your own map. And I guess that minimizes it though. And that's not what I think is how it should be read.
I think that last line basically points out that everybody has their own path and their own journey and their life.
Yes.
So everybody's life is individual. You are following a map through your life journey, whether you know it or not. And it's up to you to recognize when you're off the path and when you made missteps and the detours and the things that no one can point out the whole map to you. You are making the map as you live. And it's like, even with our own lives, our parents can warn us of troubles that might be there, but it's up to us to avoid them or fall into them and get detoured. So everybody's map is individual, just like everybody's life. You have to live your own life. And I love the way she ended it. You must make your own map. So.
Yeah, that's true. And I even wonder if the whole, like, it's the poem itself is like its own journey, right? Like you said, like this is what you should do, but at the end of the day, you must choose for yourself. I mean, I know that's, again, I feel like I'm watering it down and that's not the intent, but yeah, I think in that sense, it was really, yeah, I guess I should have read this like 20 times. I can talk about it like an octopus.
Because even with, she even puts a bit of grace in there at making your mistakes. That the line, with the earth, who was once a star and made the same mistakes as human, that's offering grace in the journey. You will make mistakes and you have to make your own map. You're the one that's following it. And, people can give you warnings even from their map, like your parents give you warnings from their life map and to help you avoid pitfalls. But you have your own life, your own journey. Everybody has their own path to make.
Yeah. But I agree with you. And I'm also thinking of all these extra pieces, right? And I think so much of that is tradition of like, things aren't, we think of like folk traditions, right? Things aren't explicit. Like it's not this concrete, like, listing type poem, you know what I mean? Even though hers could be looked at like a list, so it makes sense. It's, it's basically stated in a metaphor, right? And connection and like a symbiotic relationship to something to do with our lives. And so I'm not surprised that it's not like, listed out with the intense concrete factors, and that it doesn't each couple of like each, because the stanzas are like just in twos, but every 10 lines or something, it kind of is like, you think about it more deeply. So I thought this one was enough just because it's a lot, honestly. So the writing prompt I came up with that I just kind of copied over isn't very easy. So I'll present it, and then since it's only Karen over here, we can see how we want to run with it. And then the other poems I had were a couple ones from last time. I think it was like a Jude Jordan, maybe an Adrian Rich one. I can't even go back on the slideshow, but yeah, so this is kind of what I had. Karen, how does this resonate with you? This is from the, I pulled this differently than what I thought, different than what I thought it would be. And I pulled it from this idea of the Joy Harjo poem. Which
Yeah,
wasn't
I'm
originally there.
looking at your, I was looking at your slideshow. It's the same thing. Let's see. That's a tough one.
I was gonna make it more specific, but I don't want to angle people, or like, like not angle. I don't want to put you in a room, right? And then you're
Yeah.
welcome to be in the house. So I don't want to, angle is not the right word, but I don't want to push people in a certain direction. So I was again thinking like she talks about the earth and a map and even everything in between, but like what is, because she's tying the past and the future, right? But it's not really tying the future without addressing your past. So even like I don't know, the idea of sand in and of itself, I think is an intense metaphor. That's what I thought about when I was reading this prompt to myself, even though I created it earlier as an alternative to what I had, because I didn't want it to be as heavy as it was. And I thought it could be nice to think about a new world, so we can do this. I can copy paste it into the chat. Or you want me to modify it, Karen? Or you can self-modify it too. I know I was.
No, I like your aim. I was just, I read all prompts with where am I going to go with this? So I'm trying to take it in. I like that you left it very loose.
Yeah, I think it is. I do agree. It can be interpreted as too loose. I would just read her poem and see like what sticks out to you and then run with that if you're able to. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I thought we could do like 15 minutes of writing if you're comfortable with that, and then come back here at 1:25.
Okay.
And then Casey, I don't know if you want to stop the recording while you're still kind of here, maybe.
It looks like Casey might be not here right now.
Yeah, I'll tell him no.
He
Okay.
says he'll
Oh,
pause.
I didn't want to be the only one commenting on Karen's poem. Oh, we just put the recording on right after you did it.
Yeah,
You should read that one, but I also liked all your other poems. I think there was another one that you did like the second week that really stood out to me. Yeah, I think it was the second week. So I don't know if you have one that you've done. I mean, I know you write a lot. So as you said, you don't need a community to write. You just need a community to discuss. So I don't know how many poems you've written in the last like 2.5 months.
God only knows. I just need I need to go back through all my little notebooks and scrabbles and pieces of paper and put them in a form and put them on the computer and in inventory. Yeah. And plus doing a lot of and go back and do revisions on stuff I have written. But yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah, people keep pushing me. It's like, you need to write a book.
Yeah, I will push you too. It is hard though, because I think you're right. I mean, I feel like your poem is probably you have too much to pick from. Other people have a depletion of resources. So you should definitely look at that as a gift, because I have like snippets of poems and poems that are too long and whatever else. So you probably have enough material, and if not way more material than you need,
I write down little things, like poets do on bits and pieces of paper.
Yeah.
I've got a small box on my desk right now with just scraps.
Yeah, I have a binder, but it's like ripping at the seams. So there's scratch paper, binder paper, notebook paper, like a napkin that I transferred it from. That's really funny that you said that. Maybe a box would have been better. But I also tried, it took me like a few months to gather everything from random notebooks and random drawers and stuff. So
because I usually write in these little legal pads, and so I've got those from years, and I just need to translate any finished poems onto the computer. So
yeah, and I think it makes it easier for me to edit, because then I'll start writing in different directions. I don't know if you have that problem, but I'm like, oh, I want to be on the same page, and then it'll like a swirl around the page. That's really nice. I never asked anybody if they collect their scrippy scraps. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And then Linda, I will definitely
Send me the bullets, please.
Yes, the 3 bullets, and Karen says she's fine with it. And I definitely think you should read a personal piece, Karen. And you can all, it's not like this group is super large that you can't do all 3 of the bullets, honestly. So,
And I'll
yeah.
get individuals out for you. So when you get that to me, I'll start getting them out.
okay, yeah, let me do that now before I forget.
Okay.
And Faria, back to the little bits and pieces. I think it's David Baker had come to one of our writers workshops, retreats at for OPA, and he has what he calls like covered poems. Basically, take your little snippets. They're not full poems, but take your little snippets and take maybe 1 or 2 of them, and then try find a connection between them and make a poem. So that's why you save all those little snippets. They're like pieces that you can make a little crazy quilt out of later. So
Yeah. I feel like that would be harder, but that's a really smart idea. And it's a push to do something in a certain, kind of like, I don't want to say form, but to piece it together.
You leaving now, Linda?
I have another meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're good. I think we're wrapping up here too. But yeah, Karen, I think I would definitely read whatever you want. And if you want to bring a piece you're inspired by a local poet, or a translated piece by the poet translator you just mentioned a few minutes ago.
Okay.
I think, whatever you want. But I'll have Linda send personal emails. I think that would resonate with people because she has a list of who's them.
Yeah.
And then we'll be here next week.
Next week?
Yep. Because the rhythm got thrown off.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll be here next week on Tuesday, the 29th. Is that right, Casey?
Yeah. The 26th.
Yeah, you're right. 29th is like a Saturday or something. Yeah, 26th.
Yeah.
Because May starts. Yeah, that's like nerve-wracking because Ramadan's slipping by really fast.
I think Charlene's coffee talk is at 2, so that'll work out fine.
Okay.
Charlene Fix is doing a reading, a coffee talk at JCC and on Zoom. I'll send you that info.
Okay.
I'll look that up again. Okay.
Yeah, and you also got my prompts and such, right? That I sent you a while back. I wanted to make sure you could access it.
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. But thank you for your Stardust poem. I'm gonna let that hold me for the rest of the day. That was really nice. It had a really heavenly type vibe to it, even though I don't know if that was your intention, but this idea of return was really touching. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
For sure.
See you all in a week.
All righty.
Alrighty.
I'll
Have a
take
good
care.
one.
Bye-bye.